For gamers short on time and even shorter on patience, this is the Busy Gamer Review. In this review, I will be covering Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. It's been over a year since this game was released and I'm reviewing it now in 2025. And this review is not going to be comparing it to the release version or covering any updates. This review is from the perspective of what the game is like in 2025 and reviewing it based off that. Now, I am a big fan of the Dragon Ball anime. I've watched Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, I've caught up with the movies, and I'm a huge fan. Growing up, I had a GameCube, so I played a lot of Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 and Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. I'm not as familiar with the Tenkaichi series, so I know this is a spiritual successor, so I was excited to, give it a go and see how it is. Now, that being said, let's get into the review. Up first, we have the learning curve. So, how long does it take to actually get Dragon Ball Sparking Zero? And in my opinion, not too long. The game does start off with a pretty short and pretty basic tutorial that I thought was pretty shit. It doesn't really explain a lot of things. It's extremely basic. So then the first thing I did was go to the more advanced tutorial section and figure out actually how the game plays and what the gameplay mechanics are. And the controls aren't bad, but it's not super intuitive either. Specifically, the movement took me a while to get a handle of. I felt like I couldn't exactly control the movement how I wanted to. But for me, overall, it took about 30 to 45 minutes to get a solid grasp of the game. Now let's talk about the core gameplay loop. Now, what's the rhythm of play here? This is an arena fighter. You essentially have a big map and you fight in the map. And the map is restricted. You can reach the edge. There is a little invisible wall blocking you. But the maps are pretty big. I found myself not running into the wall that often. The base game has characters all the way from the beginning of Dragon Ball Z all the way to Dragon Ball Super. So it's safe to say there are a lot of fighters to choose from, and the core gameplay loop kind of goes like you throw punches and kicks to chain combinations, you charge up your ki to use for special moves or to enter sparking mode, and you have counters to stop oppositional momentum. Sparking mode is basically when you can use your special ultimate attack for your character, and you can basically throw unlimited combinations if you just mash the square button during sparking mode. Now, I have to say the fights look like they are from Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super, and they are beautiful. The game really nails how Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super fights look and feel. It's fast-paced, it's messy, it's chaotic, it's a lot of style, and it looks really good. Now let's talk about the session length sweet spot. So, is an hour enough to have fun? And in my opinion, definitely. This game is great for shorter play sessions, and the fights can take anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes. So I'd say you only need 30 to 60 minutes to have a satisfying experience. Within that 30 to 60 minutes, you'll be able to have several battles, maybe unlock some characters, get some money, or maybe just play online for a couple of matches. Now let's talk about the progress per hour. So how much progress do you actually make per play session? In my experience, you make quite a bit of progress per play session. You get rewarded with things like player XP, character proficiency, Zenny, new characters, and Dragon Balls. So Zenny is the in-game currency, and you can use it to buy a bunch of things from the in-game shop, such as cosmetics, skill items, or even characters that you have not unlocked yet. You also get player XP, and the biggest thing that you unlock from this, in my experience, is just the characters that become available in the shop. So you will have characters that are available at certain levels in the shop that you can buy. While using a character, you have a certain level of character proficiency, and as you level up that character's proficiency, you unlock things such as cosmetic items or Zeno orders, which are things like little challenges you can do in the game. You can also collect the Dragon Balls and get stuff like more money or more characters or more cosmetics and things like that. Now it's time for the bloat check. So, how much of this game feels like busy work? I would say this game is pretty lean in terms of bloat. The only thing that I can think of that kind of felt like bloat was collecting Dragon Balls. It can feel like a bit of a chore, especially if you have that task in mind. But honestly, you just get them by doing various things, and it's kind of like loot. And you just play the game in order to attain them. It's not like you have to do something really boring or tedious. It just can become tedious if that's what you're specifically aiming for. The story mode, in my opinion, is a little too lean. It felt like it could use more love. It's a little short and weird parts, and I feel like they could have done more cutscenes and made it more special, you know? For example, Vegeta is one of my favorite characters, and his story arc in the game ends at the Majin Buu saga. Like, it doesn't go to Dragon Ball Super, and that was extremely disappointing for me. Technically, you kinda can play as him as a part of Goku's story in Dragon Ball Super by changing characters, but I mean, I wanted a whole dedicated thing for Vegeta and unique battles that Vegeta had in Dragon Ball Super that just weren't there. Now, let's talk about the ease of re-entry and replay value. So, how easy is it to drop this game for like a week or two and come back to it later? Honestly, it's not that hard to pick up the game after dropping it for a week or two and maybe even 3 weeks. You might need to do a little warm up for the game mechanics, especially like the counters and Z counters, but I think you would get in the flow within like a 15 to 20 minute warm up. The replay value, in my opinion, is not very good for this game. Personally, wasn't a big fan of the combat. I just didn't like it that much. I don't want to say that there's no depth, but I was hoping for more depth, and I also wanted like the characters to feel more unique. Now, there is a huge roster in this game, so I understand how difficult it would be to make every character feel unique. But I don't know, I would have liked more of like different styles and different types of characters. Like, for example, what they did with the androids and how they regenerate ki continuously. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool. But I wanted to see more things like that in the game. And to me, the combat kind of felt repetitive, especially because the characters can kind of mesh together. It just wasn't my cup of tea, personally speaking. Even though I don't think the replay value for this game is very good, especially if you unlock all the characters, there is one mode that I would like to highlight, and that is the custom battle mode. Essentially, you can create scenarios of your own, and you can make it just like how the story mode is in this game, which are called episode battles. And I thought it was a really cool idea and implemented very well. You could essentially create scenarios that the game is missing in the story mode and replay it like that, or you could just create scenarios that never even happen. Another thing I would like to highlight is in the story mode of this game, which is called episode battles, you do get like certain options to do what if scenarios in the game. Like, for example, not having Piccolo come and help you to fight Raditz or something like that. And I thought that was a really cool implementation that actually makes you replay the story a little bit more. So in conclusion, if you are a Dragon Ball fan, I definitely recommend checking it out. However, I personally would wait for a sale. If you're not a Dragon Ball fan, I would just skip this one entirely. So my verdict is this game is a really good fit for busy schedules. However, I would only get it if you are a Dragon Ball fan and if it's on sale.